Dear you, I'm writing to you from a version of yourself who remembers the endless cycle of thoughts that spun inside your mind loud, persistent, uninvited. You weren't trying to overthink. You weren't choosing to worry. Yet your thoughts kept looping, replaying conversations, imagining problems, dissecting every small moment until it felt like your mind had become a room with no doors. Even in quiet spaces, the noise didn't stop. Even during peaceful moments, the spiral continued. I remember how exhausting it was. You wanted to silence your mind, even for a few minutes. But the thoughts kept rising like waves you couldn't control. You questioned everything: your actions, your words, your choices, your future. You replayed small details, as if your mind believed it could change the past by analyzing it. You planned for every possible outcome, not because you wanted control, but because uncertainty felt suffocating. There were nights when you stared at the ceiling, unable to rest because your mind refused to slow down. Thought after thought layered on top of each other until your chest felt tight and your heart felt heavy. And when someone asked what was wrong, you couldn't explain it. How do you describe a storm happening entirely inside your head? How do you express a weight made of thoughts rather than events? You didn't want people to think you were dramatic, so you stayed silent. You hid how overwhelmed you felt. You pretended everything was fine. You tried grounding techniques, distractions, routines, but the thoughts still followed. Sometimes they were small anxieties. Sometimes they were big fears. Sometimes they were memories you couldn't let go of. And sometimes they were simply noise, unshaped, unformed, persistent. You wondered why your mind worked this way. You wondered if something was wrong with you. You wondered if your thoughts would ever quiet down enough to let you feel still inside your own body. And beneath all the overthinking was the quiet truth. You were tired. Tired of analyzing, tired of worrying, tired of holding every fear on your own. I saw the way you tried to carry that mental storm with grace. I saw the moments when you held your breath, hoping the thoughts would pass. I saw the way you longed for a moment of quiet, not outside you, but inside you. And none of your struggles made you weak. They made you someone who cared deeply, felt deeply, and thought deeply, even when it overwhelmed you. Your past self understands now that the overwhelming thoughts you carried were not random. They were responses to emotional needs that were ignored, suppressed, or misunderstood. Overthinking often happens when the heart feels uncertain, when the body feels unsafe, or when the mind feels responsible for predicting every possible danger. You weren't overthinking because you wanted to. You were overthinking because your mind believed it was protecting you. Every what if was an attempt to prepare you. Every replayed conversation was an attempt to understand your place in the world. Every imagined scenario was your brain trying to keep you safe from disappointment or pain. Your thoughts weren't trying to torture you. They were trying to protect you in the only way they knew how. You lived through moments where you didn't feel fully seen or heard. You went through experiences where you had to solve problems alone. You carried fears. you didn't feel safe expressing. And because your emotions didn't have space to be processed, your mind tried to process everything for you. It overcompensated. It worked overtime. It tried to fill the silence with solutions, even when none existed. Your past self also understands that your overthinking came from love, from caring too much about people, relationships, outcomes, and your own future. You wanted to do things right. You wanted to avoid hurting anyone. You wanted to avoid being hurt. You wanted to understand yourself, your actions. Your mind wasn't loud because you were flawed. It was loud because you were trying to hold your life together with no support. But the truth your past self has learned is this: your thoughts don't need to be solved. They need to be soothed. Overthinking doesn't ease when you force yourself to stop thinking. It eases when you feel safe enough to let go. And feeling safe isn't something your mind can logic its way into. It's something your heart learns slowly through gentleness, validation, and presence. You weren't broken for overthinking. You were overwhelmed. You were under-supported. You were overstretched. You were trying to navigate life with a mind doing all the emotional lifting. Your thoughts weren't the enemy. They were signals. Signals that you needed rest. Signals that you needed reassurance. Signals that you needed more compassion than you were giving yourself. And once you understand that, the storm becomes less frightening. It becomes something you can observe instead of drown in. Now I'm speaking to the you reading this. The you who still gets caught in spirals, who still feels overwhelmed by your own mind, who still wishes for silence, but doesn't know how to find it. Take a slow breath. Let it soften your chest. Let it gently remind you of this. You are not your thoughts. You are the one experiencing them. You are the sky, not the storm. Your mind is loud because you care. Your thoughts race because you feel deeply. Your worries rise because your heart wants safety. And there is nothing wrong with that. You don't need to silence your thoughts to find peace. You only need to create space between you and them. You only need to learn to say, I hear you, but I don't need to solve you right now. Your peace won't come from controlling every thought. It will come from trusting that not every thought needs a reaction. You can let some thoughts pass without holding them. You can let some fears exist without feeding them. You can let some worries drift like clouds instead of storms. You are allowed to rest, even if your mind is busy. You are allowed to breathe, even if the thoughts don't stop instantly. You are allowed to soothe your heart, even if your mind is uncertain. And slowly, softly, the thoughts will quiet. Not because you forced them to, but because you stopped fighting yourself. Your past self is proud of you for surviving mental storms no one else could see. Your future self is grateful for the gentleness you are learning to offer yourself now. And your present self is doing something brave, choosing awareness, choosing healing, choosing softness. You don't need to fix every thought. You don't need to unpack every fear. You don't need to solve every scenario. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is breathe and let the thought pass. Take one more soft breath. Let it feel like a small moment of peace. Let it remind you of something you often forget. You are not lost inside your mind. You are learning to navigate it. You are learning to trust yourself again. You are learning to choose calm over chaos. And one day soon, your thoughts will feel lighter. Not because they disappear, but because you will finally know how to carry them gently. Sincerely, you.